Good morning, folks. Hello and welcome. So, we are here for the last class of the week, last class of week number 2. And so this morning is a level 2. It is a level 2 Vinyasa. So compared to other levels, it's going to have a good pace to it. It's not going to move super fast, but we will get through poses. I am going to give some options for like modifying things, but not a huge amount. For if you're in a level 2 class and you've done yoga either for a little while or you've done some of the level 1 to 2 classes, so you've got an idea of how to modify things if you need to. Compared to a level 3 classes, I don't typically give many options for modifying. That doesn't mean that you can't take them in level 3 classes. It just means that I'm not spending the time going through them. So in the level 2 class, we have a bit more pace, close to the pace of a level 3 class, but with the options and variations, just in case you need to change a couple things up. In terms of props for today, you might need a block. We are going to do a one-legged balance transition that you might want to have a block that you can put your hand onto. So have a block near the front of your mat. And of course, as usual, any other props that you like to have. We are going to be doing some folding. So if you need something to sit on for the folds, grab that. And I think that's it. There is a little bit of core work this morning. We're finishing the week on a bang. But as usual, modify where you need to, take a rest where you need to. Child's pose is always a really great place to rest in. If you just kind of realize that you've lost the rhythm of your breath, you've lost control of your breathing, maybe your breathing is no longer synced up with your movement, at that point, just take child's pose or just stay in down dog or skip the more challenging option. Do what you need to do because your breath is always your priority. I say this often in classes, like if you're not breathing, if your breath isn't working with your body here, then it's not really yoga anymore. You're just doing stretchy stuff. So you want the breath to be incorporated. You want to be using your inhales to open the body, the exhales to close the body, and to stay in connection with that throughout the practice as much as possible. And I think that's it. I think we'll get started this morning. Okay, here we go. Go ahead, find yourself in child's pose. Whatever shape of child's pose works best for you. So your knees can be close together. They can be wide apart. Your arms can be outstretched in front of you. You can also bend the elbows or maybe take the arms back by your sides. There might be another different variation to this posture that works for you. Just go ahead, find whatever that variation is. And give your body a few moments of stillness there. Once your body is settled in, let your focus settle onto your breath. Breathing through the nose as much as possible. Letting the inhales find an opening in the body and expansion. And the exhales find a closing, a contraction. Take just maybe another 3 to 5 breaths here. Just settling into the rhythm, the consistency of your breath. And once those breaths are completed, when you feel settled, an inhale brings your body up into tabletop position. Spreading your fingers wide here. Knuckles are pressing down. Arms are strong. Take a deep breath. Inhale, cow tilt. Belly drops, chest lifts, gaze comes up. Exhale, cat's tilt around the spine. Engage the belly as it lifts. Back to cow. Inhale. Rolling the shoulders back and down so the chest is open. Exhale, push. Spread the shoulder blades above you. 3 more. Sit bones rolling up behind you on the lift. And the sit bones tucking under as you close. Last 2, just following your breath. You might have already found that your breath needs to be a slightly different pace once you've introduced a little bit of movement. That's okay. Just adjusting as you need to. Consistency can change. Consistency from stillness to movement can be slightly different. Once you've completed your 5th exhale, come back to neutral on the inhale. Fingers are still spreading. Arms are straight here. Go ahead and just rock forwards a couple of times. Slowly bring your shoulders forwards over your wrists. Knuckles stay pressing down. You're getting a little stretch through the backs of your forearms. And then rock back again. Same thing 2 more times. Rocking forwards, pressing through the knuckles. And then back. Once more here. Forwards. And back. Then keeping keeping your knuckles grounded, keeping the arms straight, push through the knuckles and lift your wrists up off of the mat. So you're getting a little stretch through the backs of your fingers, and you're finding a little bit of engagement in the forearms here. Go ahead, slowly lower the wrists back down to the mat. So that lift is being created with the engagement of your forearms, not by just kind of lifting the weight out of your hands. You want to keep weight down and push through the knuckles again to lift your wrists up, getting that little stretch, that little bit of strength, and then lower. And once more with control, push through the knuckles, lift your wrists, and then set them back down again. And then have a seat back on your heels. Just shake out the wrists for a second there. We're just warming up the wrists. It is technically still morning. It might be late morning, but in the morning, your body is typically a little bit more stiff than it would be for an evening practice. So we want to make sure things are properly warmed up. Come back into tabletop. And then find your first downward facing dog. Tuck your toes under, lift the knees and the hips, reach the chest back towards your toes. Knees can be bent a little bit here. Legs might already be happy straightening out. That's absolutely fine. Just take maybe 5 breaths or so and find some movement. So maybe just walking the dog. Bend one knee, push to the opposite heel, and then shift to the other side. You can keep doing that. If there's other movement that you need, you're welcome to take it. It might feel good once you bend a knee to draw it underneath the body. Getting a little bit more stretch in the opposite side. And then switch again. And if you're doing things with the sides of the body, just take 1 more on each side. And then just come back to stillness at the center. Look forwards between the hands, take small steps, and walk your feet to the top of the mat. Keep the feet separated, hips width apart. Knees are bent a little bit. Relax the upper body. You can grab the elbows here if it feels good. You can leave the arms hanging if it doesn't. And again, maybe a bit more movement. Head might shake a bit, no and yes. Upper body maybe sways. The legs might continue to pedal out a little bit here. And then come back to stillness. Release the arms if they're bound. Keep your knees bent and roll up 1 vertebrae at a time. Head lifting last. Feet coming towards one another. Big toes might touch. Grip the mat with your toes. Ground into the balls of your feet, so you're pressing inwards slightly through the feet. And then into the outer edges of your heels, so you're pressing outwards slightly. Inner thighs roll inwards a little bit towards the back of your mat. Pelvis tucks under slightly. Lower ribs are drawing down. Shoulders pin back. Fingers reach towards the mat. Take a deep breath. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, arms down by your sides. All of that alignment stays. Again, inhale, reach. Fingers go up, but the rib cage stays down. Exhale, arms down. Last one. Inhale, lift. This time fold, exhale, hinge at the hips, hands towards the mat. Inhale, flat back, lift the chest. Hands might be able to stay on the mat. You might need your hands up on your shins. Exhale, fold. And again, inhale, flat back. Doesn't matter what angle your back is at. What matters is that you're taking any rounding out of your spine. So if you need to come higher, go a little higher. Then fold, exhale. Last one, inhale, flat back. Back to plank. Exhale, plant the palms, walk the feet to the back of the mat. First option, knees are down. Second option, if your body's ready for it, you can keep the knees lifted. This is your first chaturanga. Exhale, start to bend the elbows. The chest moves forwards a little bit so that you're stacking your elbows over your wrists as you lower. Inhale, first option is cobra. Second option is upward facing dog with straight arms. Wherever you are, find the center of the top of your foot. So you're not rolling in and you're not rolling out. Center of the top of the foot pushes down. Take one more deep breath. Downward facing dog. First option, pushing down through the knees. Second option, pushing down through the tops of the feet. Couple breaths. Find the hands first. Spread the fingers. Ground into the knuckles. Take one more here, reaching back on the exhale. Inhale, look forward, step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift the chest halfway. Exhale, fold. Coming to standing with a flat back this time. Inhale, lift your chest, continuing up, lift the arms, lift your gaze. Exhale, arms by your sides. Surya Namaskara A, Sun Salutation A. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold, hinging at the hips, hands towards the mat. Inhale, flat back, lift. Back to plank. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet to the back of the mat. First option, knees up. First option, knees down. Second option, knees up. Chaturanga. Exhale, bend the elbows. Again, move forwards a bit. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Center of the top of the foot. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Again, 3 deep breaths. Inhale, look forwards. Step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift the chest halfway. Exhale, fold. Flat back. Inhale, lift the chest all the way up. Lift the arms, lift your gaze. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, reach the arms up, look up. Exhale, fold, hands towards the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet back, down dog or a vinyasa. So if you want the vinyasa, take yourself through. Exhale, closes down. Inhale, opens up. Exhale, closes back. Coming into lizard lunge. Inhale your right foot, well, a modification of lizard lunge. Inhale, step your right foot to the outside of your right hand, and then drop your back knee down onto the mat. Turn your right toes out about 45 degrees. Your right hand comes up onto your right knee. Push the right knee out to the side, let the hips drop forwards, lift your chest, and then look back over your right shoulder. First option, stay right here. Second option, if it feels nice, bend your back knee, reach back with the right hand taking a hold of the left foot. 2 or 3 breaths. Really let that left hip come forwards and your right shoulder turn back. One more here. And then release the bind if you took it. Both hands back down to the mat. 3-legged downward facing dog. So the palms are grounded, back knee lifts up, right heel kicks towards the back of your mat. Big inhale for length. Exhale, bring this floating right knee to the right armpit. Bring it forward, shoulders over the wrists. Inhale, draw back, 3-legged dog. Exhale, bring the knee to the right elbow. Shift forwards, knuckles are grounded. Inhale, draw back. Exhale, bring the knee to the wrist. The knee is going lower, but the belly keeps lifted. Inhale, draw back. And exhale, release. Right foot down to the mat. Inhale, your left foot steps to the outside of your left hand. Right knee sets down to the mat behind you. Front left toes turn out about 45 degrees. Left hand is on your left knee. Push the knee away from you. That driving the knee out gives your hips a little bit more space here. Once the hips have a bit of space, let them drop. Lift the chest. Look back over your left shoulder. Again, first option, stay. Second option, bend the back knee. Take a hold of it with the left hand. 2 or 3 more here. So it's a little bit of a back bend, a little bit of a chest opener. Also a little bit of rotation is happening here. 1 more. And then release. Come back around to the center. Both hands to the mat. Again, 3-legged downward facing dog. So the palms are down. Back knee lifts up. The left foot kicks to the back wall. Big inhale for length. Exhale, left knee to the left armpit. Bring it high. Inhale, draw back. Exhale, knee to the elbow. Inhale. Exhale, knee to the wrist. Belly lifts as the knee goes higher. Lower. Inhale, lift back, 3-legged dog. And then release left foot to the mat. Inhale, look forwards. Step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift the chest. Exhale, plant the palms. Lunge your left foot to the back of your mat. First option, you can drop that back knee if you need a little bit of assistance here. You might be feeling it after that little bit of abs. Usually we wait to do abs, but we threw it right in at the start today. So if you need a little rest, just drop your back knee. Otherwise, you can keep it lifted. Twist. Left hand stays down. Right arm turns up to the ceiling. Back heel is kicking away from you if the knee is lifted. Front knee is grounded right on top of your right ankle. 1 more, shoulders drop back. Downward facing dog. Exhale, right hand down, right foot steps back. Take a second, find balance in the upper body. 3-legged down dog, right leg lifts up. Let the hip open. So your right leg is going to stay straight, floating leg stays straight. Right hip starts to spin up a little bit. Lift the right foot higher as the hip lifts a little higher as well. Take 1 more breath here. Watch your left shoulder hasn't collapsed. Keep the chest reaching back. Then close the hip if you opened it. Crescent lunge. Right foot, floating foot between the hands. Both arms overhead. Take 1 or 2 more here. Ground into the feet, reach forwards and back through the legs, and up and down through the spine. Exhale, bring the hands to the mat. First option, come right into a fold. Left foot steps up to meet the right. Second option, take a brief standing split on your way. If you're taking the standing split, shift the weight into your front leg. Left leg lifts up behind you. Just take 2 breaths here, allowing that back of the right leg to open up a little bit. And then release. Set the left foot down next to the right if it's not already there. Inhale, flat back. Other side. Exhale, plant the palms. Right leg lunges back. Again, modify if needed. So if you did it on the first side, do the same thing here, dropping the back knee. When you're ready, set your twist. Right hand stays down, left arm turns up. Think about the rotation of this. So the rotation is happening somewhere in the center of your spine. Your hips would like to stay level. So as your upper body twisted, notice if your hips turned as well. Keep that back hip lifted. Keep this front hip lowering a little bit. Take 2 more. Engaging your belly, let the rib cage turn. Last one. And then release. Exhale, left hand down, left foot steps back, downward facing dog. Once you have balance, once you have your breath, 3-legged dog. Left leg lifts. If you stayed here on the first side, stay again. If you opened, the left hip starts to roll up. Your right glute, the glute of your standing leg, is actively trying to push your right hip underneath you here. 1 more. Square the hips if they opened. Crescent lunge. Everybody, left foot between the hands, both arms up overhead. 1 or 2 more breaths. Again, lengthening forwards and back and lengthening up and down. First option, fold. Exhale, hands to the mat, and the right foot will step up to meet the left. Second option, brief standing split. Shifting the weight into your left leg, right leg floats behind you. Just 2 breaths if you're floating. And then everybody release. Right foot down next to the left if it was lifted. Inhale, flat back, Vinyasa. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet to the back of your mat. Modify where needed, knees can be up or down. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Warrior one, spin your left heel into 45 degrees. Step the right foot forwards between the hands. Both arms up overhead. So warrior one, outer edge of your back foot is driving into the mat. Quad is active to support that back leg, so you can then think about the hips turning forwards. So as you push back into your back foot, you're then pulling forwards through the front hip. We've mentioned this before. Length doesn't only happen in one direction. It happens by pulling things apart, right? So when one thing goes one way, something has to counter that. Take another 2 breaths here, letting the hips continue to roll forwards a little bit as you keep grounding into that back foot. Then take the hands behind you, interlace your fingers. Legs stay the same. Inhale, reach back through the knuckles, lift your chest, humble warrior. Exhale, fold. As you're folding, keep pushing into that back foot. Keep rolling this hip forwards a little bit. Once you can't fold forwards anymore and you start going down, then just lift the knuckles up away from your back. 2 or 3 more breaths. Again, forwards momentum through your chest, not downwards. Last one here. Inhale, pull up through the knuckles. Release the bind, hands onto your hips. Straighten your front leg. Turn the hips to the left side of the mat. So you're preparing warrior 2 legs here. Your back toes have probably turned a bit more out towards the left side of your mat. Front toes are still facing forwards. However, you might have heel-toed that foot in a little bit. Front knee bends over the front ankle. From here, coming into a fold. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, hinge over the left side of your mat. So you're folding over to the left side here. First option, hands can be on your hips and just stay kind of high up here. Second option, hands might work down the legs, maybe even bringing them to the mat if possible. So this is going to feel pretty funky. That's okay. Press into the outer edges of your feet. Keep a long spine. Take just one more here. And then inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Exhale, hands to the hips. Inhale all the way up to standing, lifting your chest. Straighten your front leg, turn the right toes in. Prasarita Padottanasana A. So first, before we start the fold, toes are facing the left side of your mat. Outer edges of your feet are parallel to each other, and they're pressing into the mat. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold, hinge at the hips, hands coming towards the mat. Taking a few breaths here, paying some attention to your feet. Notice if as you brought the hands down, did all of your weight shift back into your heels. See if you can bring it forwards again so it's evenly spread through the ball of your foot and the heel as well. Take another 2. Last one. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, hands to the hips. Inhale, lift the chest all the way up to standing. Turn your right toes forwards. You're coming into a lunge here. So just spin onto the ball of your back foot and bend your front knee forwards. Digasana, airplane pose. Now, before we go into this, we are going to have a transition in a moment from this next posture into another posture where you might want your block or your prop to be set just maybe about a foot out in front of your front toe. So you can set that onto your mat now, get that ready. Once the prop is set, if you're using it, take the arms out to the sides, palms facing forwards, shoulders are pinned back. Hinge forwards in your hips, not collapsing in your spine, hinging. So there's a long line from the back heel through the body up to your head now. Digasana. Shift the weight forwards into your front foot. Back toes might need to step forwards. They might be able to just float right up off of the mat. Take your time with your balance. Standing leg can stay bent here. That doesn't have to be perfectly straight. If it can straighten, but it doesn't have to. Now, from here, coming into Ardha Chandrasana. So, If you have a block, chances are you're going to want to set that right hand onto your block right away. So you can go ahead and do that now. If you're not using a block, everybody now, bend your right knee a little bit. Start to turn real slow. Right hand is going to eventually come to the mat or to the block if it's not there already. Your left hip, left ribs, left shoulder all start to roll up towards the ceiling. So you're opening the body. So again, standing leg is bent a little bit. That's going to help give your hips some more space to open. Again, if you're ready, you can straighten that standing leg, but you don't have to. Take one or two more. Lower ribs draw into the body. And then release. Bring your left hand down. Bend your standing leg if it's not already. Close the hip. Step your left foot back. Palms are grounded. Right foot steps back. Vinyasa or down dog. Exhale, chaturanga if you're taking it. Inhale, cobra or upward face. Exhale, back, downward face. Child's pose. Knees to the mat, hips back towards the heels. Relax the upper body. Take another 2 or 3 breaths. So these are pretty challenging passages. As I said, level 2 classes, we don't get super technical, but I do add a little bit of pace to the class. So it might be a little bit faster than what you're used to. Don't worry too much about how quickly you move, right? Even though we might be transitioning through the postures or cycling through the postures pretty quickly, don't think that that means you have to rush your movement. Only move an inch at a time, right? Small adjustments. Take your time with everything. You will get there. When you're ready, when you feel settled, downward facing dog. Great thing about yoga is you've got 2 sides of the body, so you get to do it another time. So if you learned anything from the first side, now you can put it to use here. Warrior 1, when you're ready, right heel spins in, left foot between the hands, both arms overhead. So once you're settled, find your feet again first. Feet, most important. You're always building your postures from the ground up. So set your base first. Outer edge of your back foot pushes back. The quad is active. Your hips maybe start to turn forwards there. They might not face the front mat perfectly squared off. That's okay. But the turn, the intention, the engagements that you're using to pull the hips forwards, that's what you're looking for. Take another couple breaths here. Front knee might have come back as you turn the hips. So just bring the knee back over the ankle again. Then take the hands behind you, interlace your fingers. Inhale, reach back to lift your chest. Exhale, fold, hinging in the hips. Chest moving forwards as your left hip pulls back. Once you can't go any further into your fold, knuckles start to lift up. Shoulder blades squeezing together. Maybe the palms are even squeezing together as well. Notice if you've got a pretty relaxed spine with the palms open. See if you can squeeze them closed again. One more here. Pull through the knuckles. Inhale, lift the chest up. Release the bar and hands to your hips. Front leg goes straight. Turn the hips. Keep your front toes facing forwards. Back toes might turn out a little further over the right edge of your mat. Once the hips are turned, your back foot is set, bend your front knee on top of the ankle. So you're in warrior 2 legs. Preparing that fold. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, hinge. Hands, first option again to the hips. They might work their way down to your shins somewhere. They might make it to the mat. Press into the outer edges of your feet. Notice if one side of your body is longer than the other. Chances are your left side here will shift a little bit longer as your hips change position. Even out the sides of the body, fold with balanced hips. Take one more here. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, hands to the hips. Inhale, lift all the way up. Front leg goes straight. Front toes turn in. Preparing Prasarita Padottanasana C this time. Take the hands behind you. Interlace the fingers. Inhale, reach back through the knuckles, lift the chest. Exhale, fold, hinging in the hips. As you fold, just like in that first bind for Humble Warrior, don't let the upper body collapse. Keep the shoulders pinned back, hinge in the hips. Once you can't fold anymore, knuckles pull away from your back. So just like in your first Prasarita and Prasarita Padasana A, we talked about your feet. Notice again if all of your weight has shifted back into your heels. Bring some of it forwards, activate your toes, push down into them, use them to keep balance. One or two more. Last one here. Inhale, lifting through the knuckles, halfway lift the chest. Exhale, release the blind hands to the hips. Inhale all the way up, lifting to the top of your mat. Well done. Now, front toes turn forwards. Come into your lunge. Turn onto the ball of your back foot and bend your front knee. Again, if you need your prop, set it up about a foot out in front of your front toes. When we get into that balance, don't go there yet, but when we get there, if you have your hand right on top of your toes or really close to you, it means that you're going to be really crunched up in this left side. But if it comes forwards, you have that ability to lengthen now. So you want the prop a good foot out in front of you if it's not there already. Now, arms reaching out to the sides, palms forwards, shoulders back, belly is strong. Hinge forwards, Digasana. Shift into your front leg, back toes maybe step forwards a little bit if you need some help. Eventually the back toes float. When you're ready, you might hinge deeper, working towards this horizontal position from the head through the hips to that floating heel. If you got your prop, you can set your hand on it now if you'd like to. Everybody, bend your standing leg a little further. Start your turn, again slowly. Left hand comes towards the mat or to your block about a foot out in front of your left toes. The right hip, right ribs, right shoulder roll up towards the ceiling. Back leg is more active. Shoulders roll back. Lower rib cage draws in. Last breath. Then bend the standing leg if it's not already. Right hand back to the mat, right foot down next to your left. Release, fold. Inhale, flat back, Vinyasa. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet back, Chaturanga. Inhale, Cobra or Up Dog. Modifying where you needed. Exhale, back, Downward Facing Dog. Child's Pose, knees down, hips back towards the heels. Relax the upper body. Just 2 or 3 more breaths here. When you're ready, Downward Facing Dog. Coming to the top of your mat, look forwards. Inhale, step or jump the feet. Lift the chest halfway. Exhale, fold. To standing with a flat back. Inhale, lift the chest, lift the arms, lift your gaze. Exhale, arms by your sides. So the next little sequence is going to be pretty tough on your legs. Just fair warning. Now, make sure your feet are together here. We are coming into a couple chairs and a couple twists. You do want your feet together for this. At least your big toes. Inhale, Utkatasana. Bend your knees, sweep the arms up. So your toes are pointing forwards, your knees are pointing forwards over them, pelvis is tucked under a little bit, belly is strong, shoulders are strong, rib cage is in. Bring your palms to prayer at your chest center. Sit deeper into your seat. Twist. Turn to the right side. So your left tricep is going to the outside of your right thigh. Now what you might need to do here is use your top hand and push yourself further over. If you've only got the tip of your elbow on the top of the leg, push yourself further in. Once you have the arm on the outside of the leg, palms are pressing together and you're driving through the arm, through the leg, turning the chest up and over. Notice if your left knee has shot out in front. Bring that left knee back, squeeze the knees together. Hips pull a little further back, take one more breath. Release, exhale, fold, hands towards the mat, hips lift high. Inhale, flat back, lengthen. Exhale, heel toe your feet, hips width apart. Padagustasana, bend your knees a little bit. Peace sign fingers, middle and index fingers, grab your big toes. Palms face in towards one another. Inhale, flat back, lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees as much as you need to get your belly onto your thighs.
Elbows pulling out towards the sides. Crown of the head reaching straight down. So your gaze is going back somewhere. 1 or 2 more breaths. As you've got all of that alignment, drive through the heels. Let your sit bones roll higher. Take last one. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Exhale, release the bind, heel toe the feet back together. Fold to standing. Inhale, lift the chest, lift the arms, lift your gaze. Exhale, arms by your sides. So we've done one side. Now we get to do the other side. Back into chair, ground through the feet. Inhale, bend the knees, sweep the arms up, Utkatasana. Once the legs are set, palms to prayer. Hinge, sit a little deeper, and then twist. Turn the chest to the left, taking the right tricep to the outside of your left thigh this time. Let your hips be lower than your chest. Notice if your hips have lifted way up. Bend the knees, send the hips back. Again, squeeze the knees together so one isn't jutting way out in front of the other. Take 2 more. Chest is open, push through the arms. And then release. Exhale, hands to the mat, lift the hips. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Exhale, heel toe your feet, hips width apart. Padahastasana this time. Now, if Padagustasana was a lot, you can go back there and just use the bind with your peace sign fingers. If you want Padahastasana, slide your hands underneath your feet. So your toes are working up to the wrists. They might not get all the way there though, that's okay. Again, legs don't have to be straight. That is not the priority. Once you have whatever bind you're taking, drive down through your toes, inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold, belly to the thighs. Long breaths. Close the space between the belly and thighs. Pull yourself closer to yourself. Take 1 more. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Exhale, release the bind of the hands. Heel toe the feet back together and squat. Bend your knees, drop the hips down towards your heels. Don't worry, that stuff is over. So, once the hips are down towards the heels might have lifted here. That's okay in this one. Drop your knees, let your knees go out, way to the sides. Now, Malasana, garland pose. Start to walk your hands forwards out in front of you. Now, as the hands come forwards, it's not about how far they go. You don't want weight in your hands here. You want your hips to pull back. And just hands walking forwards is basically a way to get your upper body to fold deeper in between the thighs. But you should be able to lift your hands up without face planting into the mat. Now, your first option is to stay right here, just enjoying this fold, this hip opening. Second option is to take a bind. If you want the bind, take the arms underneath your shins, which will mean that your tricep is touching your shin. Your bicep is not on your thigh. You're under the leg, tricep to the shin. Then, first option for your bind is to grab your ankles. Second option for your bind is to grab the tops of your thighs. Take another 2 or 3 breaths. The chest is pulling forward, shoulder blades squeeze together. Hips and heels reach back. Last one. Release. Release the bind, come into a fold. Drive down through the heels, lift your hips. Inhale, flat back. Vinyasa or downward facing dog. Plant the palms, step or jump the feet back. Coming all the way through into a seat. Look forwards, inhale, step or jump. Have a seat on the mat. You made it. Now, bring the knees up into your chest. Drop the knees out to the sides. As if your hips hadn't had enough opening, we're going to add a little bit more to the pot. Soles of the feet are touching. Feet any distance away from you that feels good. Bringing the feet closer is going to be more in your inner thighs, your groin. Further away is going to be a bit more in the outer hips, in your lower back a little bit. Sit on props if you need them. When you're ready, inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, fold. Keep this length of your spine, just breaking at the hip as you come forwards. Hands can stay on your shins, your feet. They can walk out in front of you, whatever feels good. Take 2 more here. Last one. And then back up to the top. Inhale, lift the chest. Draw the knees up into your chest.
That was a lie. Drop the knees back out. Now, if you are struggling for space, just turn to the side of your mat like I am at the moment. If you've got plenty of space on either side of you, you can stay facing forwards. But we are going to take the legs out wide in a second here. So you might need that little bit extra. Now, take your peace sign fingers once again and grab your big toes. Your palms are facing up this time. Lean back into your sit bones, lift your chest up, and see if you can get your heels to float up off of the mat. Some of you might need to keep your heels down. That's okay to use them as a kickstand, but you do want the weight shifting back into your sit bones so you're not relying heavily on the feet. Now, from wherever you are, whether the heels are floating or not, the right leg starts to lift and extend to the right side of the room. So you might keep the knee bent. It might only go a couple inches. It might continue a couple feet. It might eventually make it to a straight leg. Don't let the right shoulder go out with it. Pin that shoulder back, chest is lifted. Bring the right leg back again. Bend the knees, slowly bring it back to meet your left foot. Other side. Keep the chest lifting. Everything else stays balanced. You're only changing that left leg. Left leg starts to pull out away from the right foot. Again, just like I said at the beginning or in the middle of the class, move slowly. This is balance, right? You can't jump into a balance and just expect it to be there. You need to be able to show balance, show control from the very start of the transition all the way through it. Go ahead, bring the left leg back to where it started. Maybe both now. Slowly start to pull the feet away from one another. Again, they might only move about a foot away. They might keep going. They might eventually have two straight legs. Now from here, take another deep breath. Lift your chest. If you have any bend of your knees whatsoever, whether you're here or here, just release one leg at a time into your straddle. If you have straight legs, flex the ankles so that your calves are exposed and gracefully come onto your calves. Hopefully that worked. Usually there's always somebody who gives that an attempt in class and they land on their heels. So if you did that, hopefully you don't have neighbors underneath you. Hopefully if you do, they're forgiving. So you're in a straddle. Wherever you came from, you've landed in a straddle. Heels are kicking out, quads are active to help keep the legs strong. Inhale, lift the chest, reach forwards. Exhale, fold. Hands coming out in front of you somewhere. Now you can keep the hands out in front of you. You can also, if it feels better for you, you can take a hold of your ankles. It's not necessarily a deeper variation. It's just a matter of preference. From here, take another maybe 3 breaths. The legs are active. The tops of your thighs are rolling back the way, giving your hips a little bit more space, your upper body a bit more space to come forwards. Just one more. And then release. Come back up to the top. Bend the knees, draw them up towards you. Come back around to the front of your mat if you turn to the side. First option, down dog. Second option, a vinyasa. Roll forwards over the knees, step or jump the feet back. If you're taking the vinyasa, exhaling to chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Everybody, inhale forwards to plank. Come down onto your belly. You can drop the knees, lower all the way down. We are starting to slow things down a little bit if you hadn't noticed already. Coming up into cobra pose. Push down through the tops of the feet. We're coming up into sphinx pose actually. So go ahead, lift your chest up and slide the elbows underneath your shoulders, right? So they don't want to be too far back, in which case your shoulders will kind of roll forwards, and they don't want to be too far out in front of you, in which case you won't be able to push down through them and lift high enough. So just directly underneath your shoulders, push down through the elbows, pin the shoulder blades back behind you. Tops of your feet are still pushing down. There's engagement in the legs. Now think about your rib cage, your lower ribs, sliding forwards along the mat. So you're pulling your rib cage out and away from you, getting a little bit of a back bend here. Take 2 more breaths. Last one. And you can soften that engagement a bit. From here, bring your elbows in a little closer together. And bend your right knee behind you. Right knee bends, then reach back with the right hand, grab a hold of the right foot, right ankle.
So this is Bakasana, Ardha Bakasana, half frog pose. So you're pulling the heel in towards your butt. You don't want the knee to slide way out to the side. Keep that knee pointing back. You can stay right here if this is enough. You can also kind of spin your hand so that your fingers are facing out now. Rather than grabbing with the fingers facing in, you just turn the hand around so the fingers are facing out, and you can start to push down through that arm, through that foot, drawing the heel towards the outer edge of your right hip. Take one more here. And then release. Release the leg. Right elbow comes back under the shoulder, and you're just switching. Bend your left knee. Reach back with the left hand. Take a hold of the ankle or the foot. Again, you can stay here, just pulling down through the heel, or you can spin the hand out and start to push down through the top of the foot. So you've got a few breaths here. What you're looking for is some opening through the front of that bent leg. Maybe one or two more. Again, making sure that left knee hasn't shifted way out to the left side. And then release the bind. And you're just pressing yourself back into child's pose here. Real slowly coming up out of that. Knees can crawl underneath you, or you can walk yourself further back and just relax the upper body. 3 deep breaths. And then start to come back up out of that child's pose. Now you've got 2 options. The first option is going to be to come onto your back. I'm going to go there now. Second option is to take a final vinyasa. If you need a final vinyasa, go into plank, exhale chaturanga, inhale up dog, exhale down dog. If you're going to skip the vinyasa, just coming with me, kick the feet out from underneath you, have a seat, and then you're coming all the way down onto your back. If you did choose the vinyasa, once you've taken it, once you've had down dog for a breath or 2, then step or float all the way through to a seat, knees to the chest, and come on down onto your back. So once everybody's there, release your knees, set the feet onto the mat. You're coming into bridge pose. So we're going to do 2 back bends this morning. I'll give you a couple different options for these back bends. First one, we'll just stick in bridge, the normal bridge that we typically do. So feet about hips width apart, heels just out of reach of your fingers, heels a little wider than your toes. The same grounding in your feet as what you had right at the start when you came to standing. Toes are gripping, balls of the feet are grounded, outer edge of the heel pushes down. Press into the palms next to you. Inhale, lift your hips. Shoulder blades can walk together. You can keep pushing into the hands. You can interlace the fingers under you if you would like. Just 2 or 3 more here. First one is just opening up the chest. And then release the bind if you took it. Separate the shoulder blades and then roll down 1 vertebrae at a time, making sure your lower back is the last piece to unroll onto the mat. So you've got one more back bend. If you're moving into wheel, you're welcome to go there. If you want to stay with the same bridge that you just did, do the same thing again. 2 other different options that you can take. If you're going to stay in bridge pose, once you go up, you don't have to go there just yet, but once you go up, you'll be able to do some leg lifts. Maybe the right leg or left leg lifts up, maybe that sets down, and then the other leg lifts. You can take that option, and I'll talk you through that. Final option for bridge, which is where I'm going to go, is into a bound bridge. So I'm going to take a hold of my ankles. And you can see this is obviously taking me out of alignment. That's okay. Just bring the feet back down onto the mat, pull them back down, shoulder blades maybe draw together already. Everybody, when you're ready, this is your final back bend. Start to lift your hips up towards the ceiling. So if you took the bind that I'm in, just make sure that the heels are grounded once you're lifted and the knees are pointing forwards again. If you want to take that leg lifting option, go ahead and lift your left leg up towards the ceiling, seeing if you can keep your hips level with one another. And then the left foot can come down. Take a second at the center. Make sure the body's balanced. And then go ahead and lift your right leg up.
Right leg can come down. And then everybody, when you're ready, one vertebrae at a time is going to lower you to the mat. So separate the shoulder blades, roll down the middle back, and then the lower back last. Once you're down, draw your right knee into your chest, wrapping the arms around the right leg, and release your left leg long to the mat for a couple breaths here. And then draw the left knee back up towards you. Grab a hold around the left leg and release the right leg long. The back side of your body is grounded. And draw the right knee back up towards you now. So both knees have drawn in. Now keeping the knees keeping the knees lifted and the feet lifted, start to move the knees wide. Soles of the feet kind of come to touch here. Hands, first option, grab your shins. They might be able to reach a little lower to the ankles. They might be able to reach to the feet. Final option, interlace the fingers around the feet, pulling the feet towards the body here. So this is kind of like Baddha Konasana, which is the first seated fold that we took when you had the feet together, knees out to the side. You're just coming at it from a different angle here. Rather than moving the upper body towards the legs, you're bringing the legs towards the upper body. Having your back on the mat here as well, it also gives you the opportunity to get a little bit of feedback of what your spine is doing. So if you have a tendency to round your spine when you fold forwards, you might have the same tendency here, and having that flat mat underneath you, you'll be able to feel the pressure if you start to round up. So you're able to kind of flatten out your spine here as well, giving yourself a bit of better posture. I think I talked for long enough in that one. Go ahead, release. Release the bind, draw the knees back up into your chest, and then release, set the feet onto the mat. Preparing your twists. Send your hips over to the right side of your mat. Shoulders don't go with them. The shoulders stay at the center. Hips just move to the right. Now I'm going to give you a different variation this morning, probably almost this afternoon, for your twist, a deeper variation for your twist. But you don't have to take it. Your first two options are the same options I always give, having your knees together or crossing the right thigh on top of your left. So take one of those two options if you know they work for you. Otherwise, if you want to go for that the different option that I'm going to give you, draw the right knee into your chest and release the left leg long. Everybody, either both knees or the right knee, drop across to the left side of your mat. Now, if you've got both knees going over, just take your gaze out over the right shoulder, enjoy. If you have the one knee going over, the right shoulder drops, but then that left leg, the bottom leg, is going to bend, and you're going to reach down with this right hand and take a hold of those left toes behind you. Now you can again stay here, or if you want a little bit more, this right leg can also start to straighten out, seeing if you can take a hold of the outside of your right foot. Wherever you are, shoulders are working to drop down towards the mat as the hips turn to the left side of the mat. One or two more where you are. And then when you're ready, you're coming back to the center. Release any binds that you've got. Bring the knees, the hips back to the middle. And then preparing the other side. Release the knees, set the feet down. Send your hips to the left side of your mat. If you're crossing the legs, it's left leg on top of the right. If you're taking the final variation with me, left knee draws up and the right leg releases. Knee or knees drop across to the right. If you're taking one of these final variations, bottom right leg bends behind you. Take a hold of the right foot, right toes. And then if you did that final variation, then the left leg can start to straighten out, taking a hold of the outside
of your left foot, outside of your left foot. There's 2 more on this side. And then release. Release any binds you've got. Draw the body back to the center. Draw the knees into your chest. And then if you have any props that you need for Shavasana, start to gather those. If you have music that you would prefer for Shavasana, start setting that. If there's a favorite shape that you have for your body, start finding it. And otherwise, when you're ready, you can release the legs, letting them go along to the mat. Arms can release by your sides. Palms facing upwards. Close the eyes. Shavasana. Release the fingers and the toes. Release the ankles and wrists. The knees and elbows. Let the hips sink down into the mat as the legs flop open away from one another. The shoulders melt down as your breath returns to normal. Your lips may slightly part as you release your jaw, letting the tongue come away from the roof of your mouth. Softening the space between the eyebrows. Softening the space behind the ears. Listening to any sounds that may be around you. Letting them wash over your body. Creating stillness. Watching as your thoughts come in and out through your mind. Letting them finish. Letting them pass.
without creating any attachments to them. Finding the space that exists inside your mind. And finding some peace. Slowly beginning to deepen your breath. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circling the ankles and wrists. Rocking the head from side to side. Inhale to reach the arms overhead, reaching long through the fingers and through the toes. Exhale, draw the knees into the belly, wrap the arms around them, giving yourself one last big hug, rocking from side to side. Eventually winding up on your right hand side, using your right bicep as a pillow, remaining in Shavasana with your eyes closed. And when you're ready, press into your left palm, coming up to any comfortable seated position. Palms may press together at chest center if you choose. May you take only what is offered. Take only what you need and always give more than you take. Stay safe, stay kind, and stay patient. Thank you. Namaste.